Welcome back to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Shahid Durrani. Today we have with us Ismael Wrixen. Ismael is the CEO of ThriveCart, a $2 billion company, and we are so grateful to have him on our show. Ismael, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being here.
No, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. So, ThriveCart powers over $2 billion in sales. First of all, I want to make sure that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Lifetime, probably 6 to 7 billion now. But yeah, we process about 2 billion a year on behalf of our, 65,000 or so merchants that use the platform. And that's just a number that's been continuously growing year on year as the creator economy has continued to expand.
So was this founded by yourself?
No. So it was actually founded by a team of 4 English people actually who lived in New Zealand. So we came into the business probably, I want to say 3 to 4 years into its journey. We had backing, we took over the business, and we've now grown it to over 200 people, internally. So we've been able to take the business in directions that, as a founding team, they did a fantastic job, building a lot of those foundational items, but we've really been able to take it to the next level over the last, at least couple of years. And to the kind of scale and infrastructure you would imagine that you need to power, $2 billion a year in annual payments.
So how did you come across this opportunity? Did you know the founding team?
Yeah. Well, so the short version of the long backstory is, in a previous lifetime and I'm still involved in this. We founded a company called FE International, and that company is an M&A boutique for tech business specifically. So it really focused on bootstrap and self-funded startups, kind of companies that hadn't gone through that kind of VC cycle, but had still managed to get to anywhere between 1 to 20 or so million, in terms of ARR. So lots of companies, as you can imagine, that kind of came across our desk, and after a while, it made sense, to start, a small private equity thing on the side, and that grew and grew and grew, and this is now our kind of 8th iteration of that, and that's how we got involved in this business specifically. Like, we knew we wanted to be in the fintech space. It was just a fantastic opportunity for us, and since then we've gone on and made other acquisitions, brought them into the kind of ThriveCart family as well. So part of our strategy is growth through acquisition. Part of it is growth through kind of internal development. That has definitely shifted over time. Now it's, I would say, 90% internal development versus acquisition. But, we do keep an eye out for other things that might be a fit for us.
So how do you know if a company is scalable to this level when you come across it?
Yeah, there's a few kind of telltale signs. You can look at all the SaaS metrics. So, the rule of 40, all the scores and everything you want to. I think, one of the first things to say is you have to care about the business. So if you just look at it as a mathematical equation, if you're not waking up at 2 a.m. and having an idea that you need to, write down and ping off to somebody to, start a process of development or marketing or whatever that is, it doesn't matter how good the numbers are going to be, you're not going to be as successful as maybe someone else could be with that business. But, aside from that, as a general caveat, I would say that a lot of times when you look at, smaller, businesses or kind of bootstrap businesses in that kind of 1 to 20 million ARR, and I'd actually extend that, maybe, beyond that a little bit as well, they're often a labor of love. So it's really understanding, what is it that the founder or the founding team were trying to solve? How did they get their adoption, and how quickly did that come? And how were they able to sustain that over time? Because the common use case for, people starting a kind of software or SaaS business, or at least this was before the AI revolution, let's say, was very much the case of, I have a problem, I'm going to fix my problem. And once I fixed it, I realized 100 of my buddies have the same problem. And now I'm suddenly running a business and I'm scaling it. So that bit we definitely love, because it usually means that there has been an over-index in terms of, quality of code, etc. But really then it comes down to, how quickly have they been able to, reinvest in the business? Have they reinvested in the business as it has scaled? Or has it just been a case where it got to a certain point, the business is being sold, but really there's a huge amount of tech debt, in there as well, because, they just didn't need to keep updating things in order to, sell it to the next 100 and, so on and so forth. So you can often tell that through, a due diligence process, through just asking the right questions. You can often tell that as well by looking at the marketing channels that a lot of these companies, go after. So if they haven't been able to scale, paid, if they kind of launched through, Product Hunt or an AppSumo deal or something like that, that's where, you can often find signs that, tech debt may exist because they have scaled through kind of, big kind of one-time events as opposed to finding a very, very repeatable path. Because when you go down that repeatable path, you often get a lot of very good user feedback as you go, because you are scaling, but in a more kind of, predictable manner, that let's say, and usually there is a kind of, feedback loop or OODA loop or something like that in there, which just means that, you are starting to address that technical debt along the way. There's a lot of things to look for. I mean, buying one business as well is very different to buying multiple businesses and, putting them together. That's a whole different challenge and not as easy or as fun as it sounds often. But yeah, if you can get to the point where you are, you're reliably or kind of consistently buying for technology, you're able to identify the tech debt, able to actually integrate it with your product, which, can be, challenging in some cases, or you are able to do that on the marketing side where you're buying a customer base and you're kind of leveling up their experience. There are a lot of opportunities to be had.
So can you share a quick story of a client who scaled, from their first sale to actually achieving some serious revenues using ThriveCart?
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of businesses on our platform, and you can usually tell, who they are because a lot of them have kind of .ThriveCart as a subdomain, in there. So yeah, there are lots of companies like, a really good example would be Onfolio. They are a NASDAQ listed company. They actually go through the process of acquiring. Yes, it's run by a gentleman called Dominic Wells. And yeah, they kind of go through the process of acquiring, very, very good, creator businesses. And, they then kind of, a lot of these are sometimes on our platform in the first instance. And, they've worked with us with other things. So they've kind of learned the system and they can scale things over time, or in some cases, they might look to kind of bring it onto the platform. Really depends on the situation. But yeah, that would be a really good example of, a company that does this at scale.
So that's, did they start with from their first sale to achieving success using your platform, or is that someone that just joined afterwards? Like, is that similar to that?
Yeah. So in that example, that particular example, kind of they are in the business of buying other creator businesses, and the business in question, a company called Proofread Anywhere, that was on our platform, I believe from inception. So, the original founder kind of scaled that over time. And yeah, I mean, one of the things that's really unique about our platform is that we're not a closed ecosystem. So we very much pride ourselves on the fact that we have everything you're reasonably going to need. And we're continuing to add to those pieces now. So, we have upcoming product releases, kind of talking about, acquisitions, for example. We recently acquired an autoresponder business. So that's coming into the platform, AI design studios and those things are, coming out as well. But reasonably, I would say, today we have, everything you need to go from kind of, A to Z in terms of your creator or coach or kind of digital entrepreneur journey from a kind of, I'm selling in the creator economy, I'm building funnels. However, unlike a lot of other platforms, in fact, unlike most platforms, I think you can actually kind of just take our technology and embed it anywhere you want. So if you're like, no, I actually have an existing business, I'm on WordPress and I really enjoy that. And I like these combinations of, autoresponder and, whatever other MarTech tools you may like. We basically integrate with nearly everything, and you can just embed us wherever you want us to be. And then we'll just handle the sales, funnels, backends, transaction, that side of it. And you can just continue to, tailor your tech stack as you want and as your business grows over time. So there are lots of people that kind of start with that. We made our first $1 and then got to 8 figures and decided, actually, actually we need to do something super custom at this stage, but they just keep us, as part of that journey, because they don't need, there's no need to kind of, change the funnel element, and we're just continuously adding more and more functionality. So yeah, we have all the bells and whistles are nice to have, but at the core of it, we are a payments business. So our checkout and, funnel functionality is second to none, and you can just take that wherever you want to go. And we're more than happy for people to do that. So very much a fan of an open and transparent system.
Yeah, that's actually very good. Now, in that example of that company that started, with zero, for example, and went into 8 figures, what would you say their strength was? What made them successful? Obviously, the platform ThriveCart had a lot, but, on their end, what do you believe made the difference for them to become successful? Was it more technical side? Was it more the corporate culture? What was it? Can you share anything like that?
I would say the people on our platform do, and we're just a small part of it, right? Like we are not, absolutely not taking credit for the brilliant work that the creators do. The thing that we see, I suppose, is that a lot of people on our platform specifically are people that have created, they have experience in whatever it is they're doing. So there are definitely other platforms out there that are really good for, like, especially in this new AI age of like, I'm not an expert, but I can get ChatGPT to put a course together for me, and then I can try and sell that because I'm really good at marketing, or I'm really good at email marketing, or what, ads, or whatever that may be. A lot of so we do have, some users like that, but we also have a lot of, the really, really successful ones that you find, get from 0 to, 7 and 8 figures a year. They have an expertise in what it is they're doing. So they may have been, a fitness coach or an accountant, or, what a financial advisor, or whatever it has, their kind of, speciality is. They probably did that for, a period of time in a professional capacity. They have decided they want to move on from doing one-to-one consultation or sales or whatever that may be, and they want to do one-to-many. And that's where getting into this kind of digital creator economy and, where ThriveCart kind of comes into it. So typically, it's they're bringing a pre-existing knowledge into the online arena and scaling from there. They're not kind of learning as they go, if they, that makes sense. So that's a big differentiator that we find. And look, there are people that, just start out and, they learn a skill, they learn a trade, and that's easier than ever now. And, they can just, iterate upwards, so to speak. And, some of them do really, really well as well. But yeah, I would say that our platform's very much known for, people that have done it for a period and, are kind of bringing that knowledge online and scaling from there.
Makes sense. So in your experience, what are the big mistakes that you find entrepreneurs make when they're trying to scale their online business?
Yeah, I would say that, this is just, I don't have data to back this up. This is just my opinion. The ones that do really well are just constantly iterating and testing things. And you can get as granular as you want on, specific things. A really good example is like we're running our Black Friday promotion at the moment. So we decided to start early, but there's just so much going on towards like the Black Friday weekend. We were like, well, let's get ahead of it. Let's give people the opportunity. And, when it comes to testing, things, you can go really granular. You can go, in terms of our ads, we're running, I think, 40 or so different visuals at the moment for the first couple of days, just to understand, okay, well, which ones are the ones that actually perform? And the tweaks between them are minuscule in some cases. And then eventually when we have a first past the post winner, we'll cut the rest off. We will, divert all funds into the winning one or two and go from there. So that's just like a small example, but we see people, doing a lot of that. People, who embrace the affiliate, side of things as well, tend to do, very well. We have a very powerful affiliate platform, and JVs, they work very, very well too. But yeah, it's those that don't get stuck in the my way or the highway and are just consistently willing to listen to feedback, iterate, look at the data and just move very quickly.
So the content, the ads that you're creating, what percentage are they developed by AI or created by AI?
Yeah, so they're all, so we work with, we do some in-house, do some with agencies. Like, yeah, there are definitely kind of, so we actually own a visual AI generating platform called PictoChart. So we like to eat our own dog food, with some of that. Yes, but but that's much easier, I would say, on the static visual side of it. On the actual kind of we are making videos, it depends on the kind of video. If there's no human in it, yeah, you can use AI to do some of that. if there is kind of, human side, that does become a little bit trickier. I don't think we're like 100% there yet on that. But again, like if you're just looking to validate an idea quickly, that's a really good way to get started. And now the cost has come down so dramatically with the release of, obviously you got Sora 2, then, the VO 3.1, recently, the costs have just come down and down and down. And yeah, I can see why people are just using more and more of that in that example. And honestly, frankly, in a lot of other places, I mean, copy and anything you can really think of. There is a business offering an AI version of it today.
Yeah. So what mindset shifts have you seen, or you made yourself that help entrepreneurs, overcome doubts and scale quickly in such a competitive market?
Yeah. I mean, our pricing model actually really helps with this. So we are, as of today, we are a kind of one-time licensed business. You buy ThriveCart and you have it. Like, that's it. There are like some upgrades and other things that you can take if you want to, but at its kind of core base, that has always been the model. And for a lot of people, that's been very liberating because we find, oftentimes it's the, third, fourth, maybe fifth idea that's the one that really takes off for people. And if you're paying a hefty monthly fee, I mean, there are some, in our industry that charge up to $750 a month. So if you're trying to pay that, plus you have other parts of your tech stack and your first idea might not have been a hit, I think that's quite daunting for people. And that can lead to people kind of giving up quite quickly, even if they are in that kind of cohort of people who have a real kind of expertise. They validate it through a professional career and they're bringing on. So what I would say to be like the you should be succeeding category, it still might take a few attempts. So our platform kind of gives you all the tools, but it takes the pressure off because you don't have that kind of bit that's chipping away, at your wallet every month. You can kind of take your time to kind of do a lot of the experimenting and testing, knowing that you kind of own that license. So yeah, I think that's one reason we've scaled to the point, that we're doing $2 billion a year in payments because, it's after that initial payment, I think psychologically it's kind of free to people. And then, there's no additional and, then you can work with us or you can take it wherever you want to go. So it kind of gives you all that flexibility too. So yeah, each person's journey is like completely different, I would say, but having that kind of pressure off approach, I think kind of helps people bring their best ideas to the forefront as opposed to the ones they think might make the most money earliest, but may not be the most kind of sustainable or best way to scale a business.
And how you talked about, AI obviously is changing the game, AI and automations. How is ThriveCart helping creators, future-proof their business using your platform, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually recently published a kind of state of the creator economy report. And I mean, the stats are like mind-blowing in terms of, what the growth that the sector's seeing, is going to approximately double, if not a little bit more between now and 2030. And that's, taking an industry that, has seen a huge amount of growth during the pandemic years too. So, to continue that kind of trajectory, this is now like a real change. And we're also finding that, one of the things that we spoke about in that report is that AI learning is not being met by the demand for AI learning is not being met by your typical kind of, corporations. Like they just can't move fast enough. When a big company has to reorg, that's a very expensive and often very, very slow process. And now you're actually starting to see the pressure is turning for some of these large organizations away from you're talking about using AI to show us there is an actual return. I mean, if you saw like Pinterest, a few days ago, their share price went south very quickly because their analysts are now asking them to kind of be able to actually demonstrate what the returns are. And there are very few companies at this stage. I think Morgan Stanley recently came out and said they are just about break even. And so it's starting, but, I would say that is going to fuel or continue to fuel, a huge amount of growth, for creators. So we see a huge amount of growth, because these creators can just move faster. They essentially will fill the gap much, much more quickly than your kind of traditional consulting firms, are able to do, or OpenAI themselves, who I think have pledged to, train 10 million Americans of the 57 million that want, more exposure to AI training certifications and those kind of things.
So what percentage is ThriveCart built on AI, for example?
Very, very little, I would say, in terms of our like core code base and those kind of things. I mean, we certainly are using it for, elements of code review, things. We use it a lot for like testing at, bandwidth at scale. For example, we have Black Friday coming up. This time last year, we processed well in excess of, I think it was something ridiculous, like 250,000 payments a day or something like that. So we need to make sure that we can, stretch the system and scale and those things. So we use it for, I would say for infrastructure purposes, we use a lot. But yeah, So
Ismael, there is a potential where someone could come in as ThriveCart, for example, a competitor that's fully built on AI.
In theory, I don't think, I wouldn't recommend anybody would to go use it straight away. And really, there's kind of two parts to the business. So one part is the MarTech bit, which is let's do your landing pages. Let's, make all the integrations and connections. And yeah, that side of it, maybe. And you have seen a lot of, companies who just do one thing and one thing really well using AI. And landing pages is one of those things, actually. So that would be that. But to then go and build, we have 12 million students enrolled on our kind of learning management system, which are, customers of our merchants or the creators on our platform. We have the affiliate platform within there and all of the rules and behavior and all those kind of things. We then have, we have built our own kind of payment processing solution with Stripe and other companies as well. And that's built on all of the data that we have and built something that's very customer specific, our use case. So, and the use case of our users so that we can get the best processing, success rates possible. And, a good example of that is we recently launched a version of Stripe for specifically for ThriveCart users called Stripe Connect Plus. And we are seeing up to 18% improvement in payment success rates versus the older versions, kind of more standard off the shelf versions of Stripe. So there, in terms of, that, I don't think, AI just doesn't have that information. It doesn't have that knowledge. So it can't make take any learnings because if you have no data in, there's no data coming out the other side. So yeah, there are definitely some use cases and we will use AI to build out some of these things to move faster over time, but very rarely will that touch the payment side of the business. That will usually be more the MarTech elements.
What's one piece of advice that you could share with entrepreneurs to help them stay ahead without getting overwhelmed with all that's going on with AI?
Yeah, I would say that, look, with AI, it's moving so quickly and we have fallen victim to this. You start building something and by the time you're getting ready to go even into alpha, you're like, oh, there's another thing coming. So we've definitely gone through the period of just ride the wave because the wave is moving too fast now. So you do have to pick your bets a little bit. But I think there are two elements that people should kind of keep in mind. Effectively, the first element is, what is this thing actually trying to solve? A lot of people are using AI to solve basic automation elements, which you're just like, you don't need AI for that. That's just an automation. So don't stick to an automation. And it's a little bit like machine learning, like 5 or so years ago, where everything became machine learning. It's like, you don't always need it. So, and then the second bit is going back to that good old Boston Consulting Group, I think 1995 value metrics of like, what are the inputs and what are the outputs in terms of AI is not cheap. The development isn't cheap. The people that really know how to do it are not cheap either. And your time isn't cheap if you are the one that has to go and learn how to do it. Like, what is the actual expected outcome that can be measured in actual ROI? So look, you can't measure every piece of ROI across a business. If you put a roof on your factory, you're not going to get the ROI measure for the roof and you may just need it. But a lot of these things you need to go into it with, like, there is actually a chance I'm going to get something out that in terms of cost saving or ability to grow or scale more. And if you can't identify one of those and it can't outweigh even like a rudimentary calculation of what you think the input is going to be, you're falling into AI for the sake of AI. So I think the next few years will be interesting. We're now going to see a lot of like application layer AI things, come on top of the infrastructure boom that we've seen over the past couple of years. So it will get trickier, but it's a case of really trying to identify what what will make a difference, what won't make a difference, and what is worth the entrepreneur's time, because it is very valuable. And you've always got to keep that in mind.
Like for us, what we like to focus on is providing support for businesses when it comes to their day-to-day grind. You know what I mean? Like some things that can easily be incorporated into their workflow to save them more time and free their time to be more creative. That's a space that we're focusing on, you know, and I feel that space is going to be a big component in the coming years because there's so many businesses that are feeling this overwhelm, right?
Yeah. And this year has definitely been the year of like the agent, but now it's like, okay, well, the multi-agent is really how you make it useful. And as soon as you add one layer of complexity, it's not one add one, it's one add one is two, it's one add one is five. So yeah, no, I mean, we're developing something at the moment, where one of our autoresponder, for example, will have a conversation with somebody on social media, so Instagram or whatever it is, through like the DM chat function. It will then kind of get trained up and become the expert on that product, and then you can kind of filter out, you can add and kind of stack that over time as the product needs to iterate, as there are different versions, you add more agents, etc. And even going through that process, it sounds pretty simple. There's just a lot of complexity and a lot of controls you need to put in place, especially when you're dealing with like live transactions as well. So yeah, I think the next couple of years will be definitely interesting. A lot of cybersecurity connotations that are going to come out of this as well, as we move towards AP2 payments, and we now have kind of pay through ChatGPT and those kind of things. So there's just a lot of, to your earlier point, could somebody just stand up ThriveCart using AI today? Really, the answer is no, because you just have to have such a deep knowledge of payments, cybersecurity, all of these things, and know how to be way more than one step ahead of it. Yes, exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Ismael. It was great talking to you, my friend. Definitely keep in touch and wishing you guys all the best.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.